Welcome back to our post-game show here on WOWK, the 13 Sports Zone's exclusive post-game coverage. And Cassidy, this is the show that everyone watches because everyone wants to get the details behind the game that we really don't have time for in our actual newscast.
Yeah, the more fun portions too. We get to have a little bit more fun with this one.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the time we really get to reflect, see what happened over the week. Not just the week, but also on game day here in the Tri-State. And we've got a lot to get to. We've got a loaded show.
Yeah, we definitely do. And so why don't we start with our game of the night, which was out in Ripley. Now, this was a big game tonight for the Ripley Vikings. Their head coach, Steve, this is his first year coaching the Ripley Vikings, and they were working tonight to get their third win on the season. If they went 3-0, that's the first time they've done that since 2009. So there was a lot of heightened emotion and stuff like that. You really felt it on the field. Plus, it was actually the first time tonight that they were able to have somewhat of a crowd in that stadium.
That's great for them.
Yeah, it was a lot of parents were out there, obviously keeping that socially distant and 6 feet away, but it was a pretty good crowd for a really, really good game. So let's hit some of those highlights if we can. And so, like I said, it was a battle in the trenches for both teams. Neither one put up a score until towards the end of that first quarter, and we'll start here with a couple sacks by Lewis County defensive end Marshall Hobbs. Now, this was on that first one, he had help from some of his teammates, but on the second one, it was all Marshall, and he was a key playmaker on both sides of the ball tonight. And now we'll head over to the Ripley. They were the first ones to get on the board tonight with this beautiful touchdown pass by Ty Stevens to Joey Ramsey, who hopped in the air and got that 6. And Lewis County was able to respond pretty quickly after that with a toss out to Drew Caton, who swung up around the back and down and in for 6. So did the Ripley Vikings pull off that win? And sadly, it looks like they didn't. They fell to 2-1 after tonight's game. The final was Lewis County 29 and Ripley 13. So sadly, that streak keeps going since 2009.
That's right. Like you said, they're now not 3-0. So they're not 2-0. But 2-1, not a bad way to start the season. Also, I'm looking at my paper here. I'm seeing the name Joey Ramsey. I think we've called his name this season already 11 times. We've only played 3 games. Seems like he is their playmaker.
Yeah, between him and Isaiah Castro, who I found out tonight too, Isaiah Castro's dad is one of the assistant coaches, so probably something going in there, like something in the blood in the pudding or whatever it's called.
I'll say they're obviously eating their Wheaties.
Yeah.
Because they're doing something right.
To say.
Obviously a tough loss, but they'll rebound. It's a long season. We hope. Speaking of another team hoping to do well tonight was, and like I mentioned, some teams haven't even started their season. We're already in week 3 of high school football.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine, but this is where we are. We've got our next game. We've got Lincoln County, who's hosting Nicholas County. Let's see if we could bring up these highlights. And kind of like you mentioned earlier tonight, Cassidy, emotions were running high in this game because it was senior night. Again, we're going to take a look at these Nicholas County and Lincoln game. This one was a good one. Actually ended really good, really late. Here we go. We have it now. So, like I said, senior night, emotions kind of running high for both teams. We're going to catch this one midway through the first quarter. Antoine Hillard, a name to remember, breaking loose, getting deep into the secondary, going all the way down the far sideline, and he turns that carry into a huge 62-yard gain. Now, the Cougars don't get 6 out of it, but they get 3 out of it right here thanks to this field goal. But later on, more from the Cougars. David Tate going to go deep, and he's going to find his man, Corey Prutney, in back of the end zone for the score. Lincoln up 10-0 here. They would take a 13-6 lead into the halftime locker room. Now, what you're not seeing here is how Lincoln won this game. They were down. They get a game-winning walk-off touchdown on a 70-yard kickoff. Unfortunately, we weren't at this game for the entirety of it, so we're not showing it to you, but an incredible comeback win for Lincoln. They win 26-20, and Cassidy, you knew there was going to be a game that would happen like this in the season, so we're running late.
Yeah, definitely. And going off of that, let's head over to Fairview, where they hosted Greene County. Now, we had 2 games tonight that were completely blowouts. The other team did not put up 1 score, and this was actually one of those. So if we could go ahead and hit those highlights. And we're going to start here. We're going to start in the second quarter out here in Fairview, like I mentioned, hosting Greene County Musketeers. And Greene County will start with possession here. A quick toss back to Quentin Farrow. Farrow makes a long run down the field and is able to snag that first down. And from there, He's pretty happy about that. Yeah, from there, quarterback Carson Wireman looks to pass this time and finds Austin Clarkson. Clarkson runs it into the end zone for that touchdown. An extra point after this was good. So that was 14-0. And here later on in the second quarter, Wireman, a huge pass, launching it to Bryden Craycraft, getting another 6 for Greene up. The score 21-0. As I mentioned, a couple blowouts. So let's take a look at that final score. Greenup County was able to keep up that momentum. The final shutting out Fairview 49-0.
Yeah, so I know we're jumping around a little bit. We're in the tri-state, and obviously that was a very one-sided affair, to say the least.
Yeah.
Want to mention that we also have got some Braxton County and East Fairmont highlights as well. So we're going from Kentucky back to West Virginia. We're going to take a look at those as well. And Cassie, this one was a pretty interesting game as well. Braxton County lost last week. They were trying to rebound and get a win tonight, and they took on pretty good East Fairmont team who actually opened up their season as well. So we're going to take a look at these highlights now, and we'll let you know how they all played out. So Braxton County, as I mentioned, they fell last week. They were looking for the W tonight. Early on, Eagles quarterback Jet Kogar going to roll and find his guy, Tyler Cox. Now, last week, you might remember, we showed you Cox had a huge punt return for a score. That one also a big play from him. But later on, Kogar wants to go deep, unable to go deep, tucks it in, fires deep, finally got his guy. That's Ethan Cunningham down the sideline, who goes in untouched for the score. Braxton would score first, and they would go on to shut out East Fairmont 20-0. So Cassidy, gotta like for Braxton, because last week, let's not forget, they were leading and they lost late. They finally come out, they rebound with some revenge, maybe with some extra motivation. They come out tonight and pitch a shutout. So congrats to Braxton County. And we know Jet Kogar, really the captain of that team at quarterback, has his brother named Brett Kogar as well. So the brothers are back at it, and they're back in the win column tonight. Yeah, and kept them at 0, no scores. They did. Speaking of scores, I think we've got some scores to get to.
Yeah, let's get to some scores. We'll stay in West Virginia here. If we could pull up our scoreboard for West Virginia. The big game tonight was taking place in Martinsburg, as the Bulldogs have won a state record 57 games and also have a 65-game win streak at home against West Virginia teams. Now, that's all snapped tonight by Spring Valley. A big congrats to the Timberwolves and head coach Brad Dingus. They topped Martinsburg 22-20, and Wheeling Park also crushing Huntington tonight 42-14, the final. It's been a tough start to the year for the Highlanders.
It really has, and if anyone knows about that tough start, it's you. We know yesterday you had a chance to do a story with Bruce Senior, their AD, and kind of learn all about how the ramifications go about when players test for COVID positively. And
it's been crazy out in Cabell County in general. I mean, it's been crazy out there.
It's tough to see. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I should say, they lose to Midland. Tonight, they lose at home to Wheeling Park. So the team, you hope that they can get their act together quickly, because at this point, heck, one-third of the West Virginia high school football season's already behind us.
I know, and it's so crazy, and it's so sad, too, that they've had to go through all these extra steps. I mean, just to give you a little bit of insight, if you guys did miss my story, I went out to Cabell County yesterday and talked to them, because in Cabell Midland, I'm sure you guys know, there was a player tested positive. Now, what we don't realize is, if a player tests positive, that entire team has to be tested. They have to be quarantined and deal with all of that. But also, the teams who played that team and who were around that player also have to fall into that. So that's what happened to Huntington. They had to go back, watch game film with Cabell Midland, and any player on Huntington's team who came into contact with the Cabell Midland player was then tested. And so there was a lot of things that went on this week in order to even be able to play tonight. So,
and if you want to see that story, head to our website, WOWKTV.com. Hit the local sports app. Actually, we're getting word in from our wonderful producer that we actually have the story, and we're going to see if we can bring that to you right now here on our exclusive postgame show, which continues to roll on.
I said this was the first time this happened was today for us.
Today, a Cabell Midland football player tested positive for COVID-19. Huntington High played the Knights last week, so both athletic programs had to jump into action right away.
Everything we're doing is for the safety of everybody and try not to be a spreading ground, for the virus.
We sat down and watched film, and with the coach and some people from the Board of Education, and we sit down and watch the film and saw who came in contact with him.
Both programs completed contact tracing, and anyone who came into contact with the COVID positive player is now in quarantine. And this is just one more obstacle.
We had 12 events scheduled here for this week, and 9 of them changed.
Planned competitions are now a thing of the past in the Mountain State.
Like this last Saturday, we thought we were going to go in at one color, and then we find out at 5 o'clock that that's not the color that we are.
West Virginia's new color-coded map is forcing athletic directors to schedule and reschedule games daily. So how are they doing it?
I'm contacting schools at different colors, trying to schedule those games. If we're this color, will you play us? If we're that color, if the school you're playing's orange, will you play us? So that's what we're doing now. We're making hypothetical schedules.
Study the counties. Look at the counties that might be a possibility of going orange, that you're not going to be able to play, and start getting another plan in place. So when Saturday rolls around and the color code comes out, you've already got your backup plan.
Hypothetical schedules and backup plans.
It's just what we have to do.
Now, Cabell Midland obviously could not play tonight because of that COVID positive player. And as those ADs mentioned, I mean, the color-coded map comes out tomorrow at 5. So it'll be really interesting to see which teams can actually play next Friday.
And, you know, it's funny, right in that Huntington area, you know, they were the 2 West Virginia teams that we know have gotten COVID at this point, or have at least contract tracing. But before the season even started, Ironton was the team that had got the virus, and they had a shutdown before they reopened. But I tell you what, once they reopened and they were safe, there hasn't been a team in the state of Ohio that has looked as dominant as the Ironton Fighting Tigers, and they were back in action tonight in that Buckeye State. We've got their highlights as well. And they played Rock Hill tonight. Rock Hill, not the greatest team on earth, but they gave him a tough fight tonight. Early on, we got Taden Carpenter throwing deep to Kyle Howell. This scoring play right here gives the gives the Fighting Tigers a 7-0 lead in the Buckeye State. That's what I meant to say. Then Ironton, they get themselves rolling. Carpenter here going to go far side. We see that's Aaron Masters, who shakes out a couple defenders. And Ironton, believe it or not, they actually started this game with a fumble, gave it back to Rock Hill, but wasn't enough for Rock Hill's sake. Ironton comes up winners tonight, 41-0. So Cassidy, last week Ironton goes out. They shut out Colgrove 71-0. Tonight, 30 points less, still a shutout. It seems like this team was just so motivated and focused to get back to that Division V state championship game. We know they lost last year, but if they keep playing like this, they're not only going to get there, but they're going to succeed when they land in that title game.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and yet another shutout too.
That's right. Speaking of shutouts, we got some more scores.
Yeah, we have some more scores for you guys. We're going to keep it in that Buckeye State, and if we could pull up that slate real quick, there we go. So yeah, in that Buckeye State, Chesapeake wins a home shootout tonight over Portsmouth. That's 49-38, and then in Fairland, they also won at home. The Dragons take down South Point 47-7.
Yeah, so we see one of these games obviously going in the shutout department and one of these games going in the shootout department. And that's one of the things we really haven't seen. We haven't seen a lot of shootout back and forth yet. And obviously the Chesapeake Portsmouth game was one of those games that featured that. I mean, got a lot of points scored up there. So I don't know if it's a good offensive execution,
or a defensive problem, right?
Yeah, so obviously both teams have a lot to think about heading into week number 5 now in Ohio. Crazy that we're saying that.
Right, and we're going to stick to defense really quick because our play of the night tonight, we gave some love to the defense. Now, unfortunately, Lewis County is not technically in our viewing area, but this play was just too awesome to not mention it. Now, Ty Stevens for Ripley throws an interception right here, and he's able to run it back for his team. Obviously not a touchdown there, but he got some yards, and yeah, they were pretty excited about that. I'm pretty sure that was his first pick of ever. So, I mean, they were screaming that, finally a pick.
So. It may not be in our viewing area, but you can't not let a good play go unnoticed. You know, it's like one of those books here at home. You have to read all the books because you never know what's inside. That's how I would say it. So,
yeah.
So great for him. And obviously, like we mentioned, Ripley's going to try to get back in the win column next week.
Yeah.
But you know who else is ready for their game next week, or I should say this coming weekend?
Who?
Marshall University. The Thundering Herd. We know they're going to be back in action. We'll both be at the game. We know it's if you can't be there, want to let everyone know that this game is going to be played on CBS right here on WOWK. The last time Marshall played on CBS was 1993. Now, earlier this week, head coach Doc Holliday mentioned that he loves the exposure that his team gets when playing in these national type of big TV network games. And Cassidy, we know from Marshall, they've done so well again in their opener, scoring 59 points. However, this time they're playing number 23 ranked App State. So I got to ask you, Marshall at home against the top ranked opponent.
I don't know. It'll be really interesting. But really quick, here's some details for you guys. So again, the game is going to be tomorrow, and here's what you need to know. It's kicking off at 3:30, and you can see all the action right here on WOWK CBS Channel 13. And both teams are also 1-0, so it should be a very interesting matchup tomorrow for sure. A
battle of the early unbeatens, and like you mentioned, 1-0. Marshall, pretty good. They've got that freshman rookie quarterback from Charleston right here.
Yeah, and he had his first start last weekend, and boy, did he put on a show.
4 touchdowns, and then you look at it, Marshall's coming off the bye, but they're playing the number 23rd team in the nation.
Are you shocked at all that they were ranked 23rd?
A little bit. I think some of it was because at the time the Big Ten wasn't still applying at the time. The SEC hasn't played a game, so I think they made these rankings based on who actually played.
Right.
And, but App State, a quality opponent. They're not bad. One of the best teams in the Sun Belt. They won the Sun Belt last year, so. Marshall, I think, will have its hands full, and I think a lot of people are expecting it to be one-sided. I could promise you this. It won't be 59-0 tomorrow. I don't think it will at all. Did it shock you at all? We talked last week, too, about how WVU was facing off against EKU, and Marshall, as you mentioned, beat them 59-0, and WVU didn't really shut them out quite as much as I thought they would. They didn't. I remember right here on this program last week, right at this time, in fact, I said it's going to be much closer than people think.
Right.
It wasn't. The margin of victory was still 46 points, 35 points, but EKU put up a touchdown, put up a field goal. They got their offense going a little bit, but we can say this for certain. Eastern Kentucky does not want to visit the state of West Virginia again. I think that goes without saying. But college football Saturday is here. We're excited to bring it to you, and
I'll be here tomorrow. Do you want to end with word of the day?
I think we should. Well, actually, for those who maybe missed it maybe if you missed it this season, Cassie, you want to explain to us what that really is and what the segment's about?
Yeah. So we decided to have a little fun this year with our Friday night football show, and we started a new thing. It's called Word of the Week. So every week we will think of a football term, and at our game of the week or any game we decide to show up to and surprise everybody with a camera at, we ask families, parents, cheerleaders, band members if they can give us the definition of this word of the week. So this week's word was the neutral zone.
Alrighty, so this week's word of the week is the neutral zone. Do you know what the neutral zone is? Absolutely not.
It's some of the position they do on the field.
I bet you it's, what's that thing called that they run in and make a touchdown? What's it called, Mom? The end zone. No, that's not it.
You're not going to score there. I don't know.
From the 10-yard to the goal line.
10 yard to the goal line?
10 yard to the goal line.
60.
Where, like, all the football, will they go to stop and take a break or something?
I was in band. I really don't know. I'm guessing that's like where the no man's land in between like both teams' sides. I don't know anything about football.
In the middle, 50-yard line, neutral zone. I don't know.
Give me a guess. Just like tell me.
Well, it has to be somewhere where both sides are neutral.
Jasmine Parsons.
But where is it?
The sidelines.
Bella Bertini.
So much fun. I mean, some of those answers just made me laugh so hard. But Jake, do you know what the neutral zone is?
Of course, it's a place a defender should never be. That's where it is. And I want to try to, I don't have the X's and O's marker, so I just want to illustrate here following social distance. So if we've got this iPad here as the ball, these two players normally have to be about a yard or two separated from the line of scrimmage. So he's normally here. So the neutral zone right here is when the defender invades the space where the ball is located. He's too close. So this would be a neutral zone infraction, also equivalent to an offsides penalty because there's certain spaces the players can't be. So this is considered a neutral zone infraction. Now if the player's here, he's not in the neutral zone. But if he lines up in the neutral zone, that is a 5-yard penalty, and the team with possession moves 5 yards closer and also gets to repeat the down. So you can go from a 1st and 10 to a 1st and 5 if someone does line up in that neutral zone. Like I said, it's a place.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is Football for Dummies with Jake Siegel.
It is a place no defender wants to be in. If a coach finds you there, he's going to yell at you because it's called a silly penalty. So you don't want any of those. But again, doing our best to socially distance, visualizing. Next week we're gonna get a ball on the set, I promise. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we should. We need to add a ball up here for sure. But that's pretty much it for us tonight. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place.
All right, have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a great week.